Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're taking a look at an upcoming release that promises to be a superb upgrade to your PMDG 737 family. Many of you may already be familiar with Boris Audio Works, a developer producing custom sound sets for both X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator. Previously within MSFS, Boris has worked on sound sets for the CRJ, the Cessna 152, the Cessna 172, as well as the SR-22. And of course, the next aircraft that he's turning his hand to with his series of standalone sound packs is the PMDG 737. The default sounds on the PMDG 737 aren't bad, but equally of course we have seen much better efforts from other developers. The 737 is otherwise though one of my favourite aircraft available within the sim, so very excited to demonstrate to you here today what the Boris Audio Works sound pack brings to the table. On this particular occasion, I actually reached out to Boris myself, something that I very rarely do for these sorts of videos. Having though loved all of the previous Boris Audio Works sound packs that I've tried, I was more than happy reaching out to Boris, knowing that it's going to be a quality product ahead of time. That being said, he hasn't asked anything of me, and I'm certainly under no obligation to give you anything but a full and honest preview here of the product. The sound pack is still somewhat in a beta state, so there are potentially fixes and improvements ahead of release. But with that being said, as you'll see for yourself in just a moment's time, already the 737 is sounding pretty top notch. With that in mind, we are going to be carrying out a full flight using this beautiful retro Delta livery, freely available over on flightsim.to courtesy of Mike V. I'll try my best to demonstrate the sound set throughout all flight phases and from various angles both internally and externally. Owing to the fact that this is a sound set demonstration specifically, I have edited in fewer custom sounds than I typically would for one of my videos. So every sound that you hear throughout the video will be courtesy of the sound pack. The only exceptions there are a couple of external sounds used during the intro and the outro, and as well as per usual the ATC that you hear throughout the flight has also been edited into the video. For our flight today then, a very short hop for us. We're currently on the ground in Memphis. We're going to be taking the aircraft back home towards Atlanta. We have 97 passengers on board the jet. We're going to be cruising our way home at flight level 370, and we're uploading 5.3 tons of Jet A. As always, I really hope you enjoy the flight. If you do, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you would like to help support my content further, you can do so by becoming a channel member or patron. Okay, so today then we find ourselves back in the cockpit of the PMDG 737-600. Currently on stand 1-4 here in Memphis, and of course the aim of the flight today is to demonstrate the absolutely excellent and soon to be released Boris Audio Works sound pack. As you can see, starting with a completely cold and dark jet, the intention there of course is to demonstrate the entirety of the sound set here as we work our way through the setup. So for the pre-flight checks, the part brake is set, the battery is on and guarded, same there as well for the standby power, that's guarded. Left centre fuel pump is selected off, no fuel in the centre tank today. The left aft fuel pump is selected on for the APU start. And we'll come up to the APU start switch and set that through to the start position. There's not going to be a whole lot for us to hear during the APU startup internally, so we'll head outside the aircraft and listen to the APU as it runs up. Okay, so we do now have a good start here on the APU. We'll take that onto the bus. And same here as well, we'll take the APU bleed on. The position lights, those are set through to steady. Logo lights we can leave off, not required for a daytime flight. Emergency exit lights are set through to armed. Cabin signs are selected on. Take the packs through to auto.
2983 at the approach end, cross from midnight left to wind Lima ground, 0.75 good day.
And the IR mode selectors can both go through to nav. For the FMC setup, we'll come down to the CDU. So 737-600, 22k engine thrust rating. The POSNet will take the left GPS position.
The Lima and the joint Lima contact ground Delta 2983.
For the routing, departing out of Memphis, bound for Atlanta, Kilo Alpha Tango Lima. In terms of the runway, it's going to be runway 36 left. And for the flight number today, we are Delta, so Delta Alpha Lima 1624.
That's 2622 on our running, right up takeoff.
In terms of the departure, again off 36 left, it's going to be the BB King 7 departure, transitioning via waypoint Kermi.
66 Tower, Charlie Cross, runway 8 left, short of 8 right.
We'll activate that. That takes out towards waypoint Kermi. From there we're going direct to waypoint Hotel Uniform Tango Charlie Charlie. Then direct to waypoint Kilo November Sierra Alpha Whiskey. And then from there direct to waypoint Russa Romeo Uniform Sierra Alpha. Once again we'll execute for the arrival. At the moment we're expecting 08 left into Atlanta. We'll be joining via the Glavin 1 arrival and transitioning waypoint Russa with the Judge transition. So again we can execute all of that for the route that is checked. For the perfinite, 5.3 tons of fuel currently on board the aircraft, that is as per the flight plan. You can see we've got 2.6 tons in both the left and the right, nothing there in the centre. Zero fuel weight for the flight today, 51.5 tons. And the reserves, Columbus is the alternate, we need 2.2 tons. Low cost index for us, cost index 5390 for the cruise flight level. And again we'll execute for the M1 limits. It's going to be a takeoff 1D rate with an assumed temperature of 30 degrees. And we'll go climb 2, save the engines. For the takeoff, flaps 5, CFG 24.3. That's giving us a stab of 5.4. The numbers check against our previously calculated numbers on the tablet, so V1 121, VR 122, V2 of 130 knots. That's it for now then in terms of the FMC setup. For the transponder, set that through to standby and we'll squawk 2000. The transponder is set. For the MCP, IAS will set V2 130 knots, as we just discussed. On the heading, we'll set runway heading, so 360 degrees. 360 on the heading, same there as well for both the course selectors. And stop altitude on the SID, we'll brief that up momentarily, but that's going to be 5,000 feet. The yaw damp switch, we can now take that on. Window heats are selected on. For the pressurization system, flight altitude, we're going up to flight level 390 as discussed. There's 390 selected, and landing altitude into Atlanta is going to be 1,000 feet. So landing altitude is set. For the flight directors, we'll take both of those on. Mine first. Number 1 is the master, and number 2. On nav and VNAV, we'll take both of those for the departure. Altimeter reference. The QNH currently 3017. So we'll set that on all 3 altimeters. They are linked in the PMDG 737 currently, so 3017. Across the board, that's giving us an aerodrome elevation there of around 320 feet. Auto brake is set through to RTO. Com radios not required. In terms of the doors, just the forward entry currently open ahead of the boarding. We'll expect the cargo doors to be opened up as well momentarily. In terms of the briefing, we'll come to the electronic flight bag and just briefing up the departure then. So it's going to be the BB King 7 RNAV departure as discussed, plate 10-3 Bravo. It is an RNAV SID. Runway 36 left, climb heading of 360 to intercept the 035 course out towards waypoint Jacks, and then as depicted on towards waypoint BB King. Once again, initial stop height 5,000 feet, maintain 5,000, expect further clearance after 10 minutes. Transition altitude 18,000, we have that in the box. And in terms of the notes there, speed restriction of 250 below 10, pretty standard, we'll comply with that. In terms of the terrain, Memphis seems to be as flat as a pancake, no significant high terrain around. MSA for the departure 2,500 feet. Weather's nice, clear conditions out the field, temperatures around 11 degrees currently, wind out from the northeast at around 3 knots. In terms of the taxi,
I'm Lima Delta and clear cross 9 left Delta 23 to 4.
you can see we're currently on the main terminal. We'll be pushing back somewhere towards Charlie, and then we'll cross over on Tango, probably down Mike for runway 36 left for a full length departure. That's it then in terms of the initial setup. Hopefully as well you've got a good feel for all of the system sounds, the click sounds, the switch sounds, and of course the APU. We'll continue on with the boarding. We'll take a wander through the cabin as per usual, that way we can hear the updated sound set as well throughout the entirety of the aircraft. A few more things to run up the front, and I'll come back to you again once we are ready for the push and the start. Okay, so we now have everybody on board the jets. As you can see, we have all of our doors closed up. We'll take the remaining fuel pumps on here ahead of the start. Again, no need for the centre tank pumps. The hydraulic electric pumps can go on. Same as well for the anti-collision lights. And lastly, we'll take the transponder on here as well. We'll take the park brake off. A little bit non-standard here, but we're going to commence the push. We'll wait until we've completed the pushback before we start the engines, and that way we can head outside and listen to the number 2 as it runs up. As you can see, the tug just moving into position, so we'll run the before start checks here during the pushback. For the before start checks then, the fuel, we have 5.2 tonnes on board the jet, that is as per the flight plan. Fuel pumps are set. Passenger signs are on for the windows. Both are closed and locked. On the MCP we have a V2 of 130 knots, heading of 360 degrees, and a stop height there of 5,000 feet. The takeoff speeds, we have a V1 121, VR of 122, and a V2 of 130. CDU pre-flight has been completed, the rudder and aileron trims are free and 0. Taxi and takeoff briefing is complete for the flight deck door, that is closed and locked. Anti-collision light is selected on, that is the before start checklist complete. So ahead here of the push, we'll take the packs off. And we are now ready for the start. Again, we'll just hold off until we've completed the pushback. Beautiful sunny day here on the ground in Memphis. Fairly wintry conditions though, as you can see, a little bit of snow coverage around. None of it's on the taxiways though, the temperature is above 11 degrees, so we're good in terms of any engine anti-ice requirements. Anyway, we are now sufficiently clear of the gate, so we'll stop the push. Park brake can go on. And we'll release the tug, again, all a little bit non-standard. So the ground equipment is clear, and for the start, as per usual, we'll start the number 2. And again, in this particular case, we'll head outside and listen as it runs up. Okay, so we do have a good start there on the number 2. We'll start the number 1. And I'll just keep quiet through the engine start process, allow you to hear all of those excellent sounds as the engine runs up. We do have 25% on the N2. We'll set the engine start lever through to the idle position. There's our starter cutout, and you can see the start valve open, caution they're extinguished. So number 1 is stable. We do have 2 good starts for the before taxi checks. The engine generators, both Gen 1 and 2, the output looks good. We'll take the engine driven generators onto the bus. Repeats. Are selected on, wing and engine anti-ice not required. The packs, will take those back through to auto. Isolation valve set through to auto. APU bleed is selected off. We'll take the APU off here now as well. Engine start switches are set through to continuous. For the flaps, once again it's going to be a flaps 5 departure. Okay, so we have flaps 5 selected and indicated with a green light. That is as per our takeoff performance calculations. We have a CDE message there of verified takeoff speeds, and once again we have flaps 5, 121, 122 and 130 selected up there on the MCP. We'll clear the message. The elevator trim, looking for 5.4 units nose up. There's 5.4 units. For the flight controls, we'll come onto the systems page. We have full up, full down, and neutral, full left, full right, and neutral, and on the rudder, full left, full right, and neutral. We'll clear the lower DU. We'll hit the recall, nothing there for us. Head to the taxi then, we'll take the turn-offs and the taxi light on. And a little bit out of sequence here, but we'll take the weather radar on. Select that up here as well on our EFIS selections. Transponder can go through to TARA. And in terms of the taxi then, once again, currently just pushing back towards Charlie. We'll head out via Charlie, cross over at Tango, and then down Mike. Holding point Mike 1 for a full length departure. Off runway 36 left. Okay, so we are now lined up here on runway 36 left, just the before takeoff checklist left to run. For the flaps, we have flaps 5 selected, indicated with a green light, and for the stab, 5.4 units nose up. Auto throttle is now armed, we've got the landing light selected on, strobes there as well. So off the brakes, we'll come through to 40% on the M1s. And take off.
Airspeed alive. 80 knots. V1. Okay.
So coming back on the yoke. And we do have a positive rope, bring up the gear. There's LNAV. and VNAV speed. So just pitching those down towards the flight directors, trimming for that. We'll take Command A. And we have command on the FMA. Just coming up through thrust reduction, coming back towards climb 2 now on the D rates. And you can see going to the acceleration phase, N1. Tracking out now towards waypoint jacks. And speed's checked, we'll go flaps 1.
Bravo, Delta, cross 8 right, Foxtrot, and over to ground 0, wind 237.
And up now through our minimum clean speed, we'll go flap 0. So flaps coming up, we'll take the runway turn-offs and the taxi lights off. Engine star selectors can go off. Landing gear can go off there as well. So initially levelling off at 5,000, still tracking out towards waypoint jacks. And we'll adjust the heading bug to bring it around towards the heading of 035. Sure, I'll forget to do that at multiple points throughout the flight. Safety after takeoffs, auto brake is off, engine start switches are off, gear lever is in the off position, runway turn off lights are off. That is the after takeoff check is complete. Holding 250 knots then for the time being. We'll assume now we've been given further climb up to 11,000 feet.
West 1249 at Kilo. Cross runway 9 left. Join Lima. Contact ground point 75. Have a good day.
We've got FMC speed, VNAV out. We'll come into level change. 250 knots, 11,000. Check there on the FMA. So we've got N1 MCP speed. And coming around the corner now. So as you'll certainly have noticed during the takeoff, and you can hear generally, really excellent sounds as per usual from Boris Audio Works. A really nice effort on the sound set. And of course it just makes the aircraft that much more immersive and much more enjoyable to use. Up through 5,000, it's a nice day, we'll cycle the signs. In terms of the pressurization, you can see there the cabin altitude increasing, same there as well for the differential pressure, coming up to around 3 psi, and the cabin climbing there as well. Further climb now, flight level 220. Just keep the jet going up.
Left, and then join Lima, 0.75 for the Topher, not good.
And of course it would have been really nice to have this sound set included with the PMDG products, but I have to say, with it included, the product now feeling incredibly polished. Really nice to use, even just minor details like selections here on the MCP. Fluid, rapid but not too rapid, makes selections easy but also expeditious. There's quite a lot of add-ons still in the sim that just don't get things like that right, so it's really nice to see. We'll come out now on the range here on the nav display. So 80 miles. And just approaching 10,000, of course, once we come through 10,000 feet, we'll take the landing lights off. We should see the jet accelerate here as well. We're going to have to do that ourselves, though, in level change. And target speed there is going to be 279 knots. So we've got 279, up through 10.
560 right on Bravo, Bravo Delta, crossing right, so Foxtrot ground point 9.
Landing lights are off. And we'll just hold the passengers a little bit longer. TOT currently plus 1 degree, so once we come up through this cloud layer, we'll take the engine anti-ice on. Tracking now out towards waypoint Ledu. And for the climate checks then, we've got Command A. Altimeters will hold till we're through 18,000 feet. Landing lights are off, fasten seatbelt signs will leave on for the time being, and the centre fuel tank pumps once again not required, with no fuel in the centre tank. So putting Memphis now out towards the west, out behind us. And again, really beautiful views. I've got to say, 2020 is still holding up very well versus 2024, and actually, I mentioned it in some of my 2024 content, but the more I use 2024, the more frustrated I get with the sim generally, whereas 2020 at this point is a very solid, very old hand sim. It works very nicely. And actually, there's not too much difference between the visuals even. There are, of course, points that you can pick apart. I think the lighting in 2024 is more realistic. Okay, we'll take the engine anti-ice on here as we come up through the cloud layer. But even then, there are certain lighting conditions where 2020 looks better, certain weather conditions as well. And as I say, just generally speaking, I'm very happy with the sim, and I tend to find I use it more than I actually do 2024 at the moment. I'm sure that'll probably start to change as the sim's updated. So we'll climb now 390. Again, that's our cruise altitude for our pretty short hop over towards Atlanta. We have 390 there on the FMA. And again, we'll just center up that heading bug.
Endeavour 5439 at Sierra, cross runway 9 left, exit to ramp 5 and call the ramp tower. Have a good day.
I've actually also been playing around with X-Plane 11, which is probably a story for another day, but it really does actually go to show when you play with some of these quote-unquote older sims, like here, for example, 2020, that actually things have not moved on as much as you might think. Certainly, of course, in their default state, particularly X-Plane 11 does look pretty rough. It actually looks pretty great with a lot of mods. Again, though, a story for another day. We're not focusing on that. Obviously, we're focusing here on the Soundpack, which, once again, I think is absolutely superb, and I'm sure you'll agree. So just come up through 18,000. We'll set standard. We have standard set and cross-checked. Just coming onto the progress page then, at the moment showing arrival into Atlanta with 3 tons. 2.2 tons is what we need for the diversion over towards Columbus. It's about an extra 800 kilos. I believe that's around an extra 20 minutes in the 7.3, which is spot on. That's what I planned in terms of contingency fuel for the flight here today. Anyway then, continuing our way up towards flight level 390, we'll take the belts. Probably actually in reality just wait until we clear this band of cloud, but we'll just take them off here for the sake of the video. So through to auto. And continuing the climb. We'll come back now into VNAV path. And we have VNAV speed there on the FMA. Up through 20,000 feet. Looks like we're going to be reaching top of climb in about 80 miles. So in about 10 minutes time. As always, the 600, a nice little performer overall. Very sporty little jet. As with a lot of the flights that I like to make, it is a pretty short sector for us. We will, of course, head outside during the cruise so that you can hear the Boris Audio Works 737 Soundpack with the jet at flight level 390. We're only going to be in the cruise for around 10 minutes, so almost a parabolic trajectory over towards Atlanta. Once again, a little bit non-standard, but as usual, I'll come back to you again as we're approaching our top descent point. We'll get the jet coming down, and we can configure and brief for the arrival during our descent.
South 2445, line of sight, runway 8 left, runway 120, 6 clear to land. Delta 2673, line of sight, runway, right line of way.
Hyperway, eat right, Delta 2673.
So welcome back to the flight deck. We are just approaching our top descent point. We've got about 10 miles to run, so just a little bit over 1 minute. As you can see, conditions still very nice here in the cruise. We'll reset the MCP altitude then ahead of time. We'll go straight down to 5,000 feet and we'll talk more about why that is in just a moment, but we're basically just going to let the aircraft VNAV handle everything for us. So we have 5,000 there on the MCP, just shy now of 6 miles to run. We'll brief up the arrival and the approach once we've got the aircraft coming down. So just holding here at our top descent point for now, showing 4.3 miles to run. In terms of our fuel state, as you can see, 3.5 tons now on board the jet, and showing an arrival now with 3.1, so an extra 900 kilos, again just a little over 20 minutes.
2206, land departure, rudder counter, delete, avoid speed restriction.
So everything looking nice. Once we come over that top descent point, the Boeing should automatically put us into the descent. Again, just following VNAV. Nice 41 knot tailwind here at the moment, giving us a ground speed of around 470 knots. So we have retard now on the FMA. You can see the jet is now descending. On the VNAV path, we have FMC speed. And again, we'll leave the aircraft doing its thing here as we brief. So for the star, as we mentioned earlier on, it's going to be the Glavin 1 RNAV arrival. That is plate 10-2 Alpha. It is an RNAV star. Initially coming in by waypoint Russer, as we discussed, in towards Glavin. We need to be 250 knots at 12,000 feet at waypoint Glavin. Again, we'll leave the VNAV to take care of all of our various restrictions on the way down. That takes in bound towards waypoint Sierra Tango Hotel Romeo November, and then on towards waypoint Yaba. From there we're transitioning to 08 left, so Yaba at 9,000. Again, various altitude restrictions on the way down. Need to be above 5,000 at waypoint Jaj. From Jaj we're going to be joining onto the ILS for 08 left. And the plate for that is 11-1. Frequency 109.3, final approach course 095. There is a profile check 2,900 feet at waypoint Shell. We're going down to a Cat 1 MDA of 1,215 feet, with the aerodrome elevation there of 1,026 feet. And for the missed approach, it's climbing to 1,500 feet, left turn, ultimately up towards 3,500 feet. Doesn't look as though we've got any speed restrictions there. In terms of the terrain, again, nil significant. We do have the significant aerodrome elevation of over 1,000 feet, but the MSA 3,100 feet. Weather's actually very nice, much the same as we saw out of Memphis, just a touch colder, the QNH a little bit lower as well, and the wind has swung around out towards the east, hence runway 08 left. In terms of the landing on 08 left, and we'll aim to vacate off at Bravo 7, and then it'll be a fairly long taxi for us. We'll probably come across either via Echo, more likely I would say all the way down to the end, and then back down either Foxtrot or Echo, parking today on Concourse Bravo. That's it in terms of the briefing. We'll just bring the star up once again. Just coming down through flight level 340. Everything's still looking good. In terms of the setup then for the ATIS, we've already got that. Again, wind currently 080 at 9 knots. Over 10 statute miles in terms of visibility, temperature of 10 degrees, and the QNH 3009, we've already got that pre-selected. Altimeters, of course, we'll leave those till we're down through flight level 180 for the radios. Actually just come back onto the ILS chart here. So we're looking at a frequency there of 109.3, we'll set that on both sides.
2219, contact us at Landing Center, 134.2, have your deck.
So 109.3 on my side.
2078, contact Atlanta Center, 134.95, take care.
And same there as well on the first officer side. The final approach course 095. Again, we'll have to set that on both sides.
1065, climb and maintain 14,000. 2990, Atlanta departure, ready contact.
Looks like we are just coming down through a thin layer of cloud there. We'll leave the engine anti-ice off for now. It's only going to be transitory. And we have 095 there on the right. MCP altitude is set, FMC approach speed. We'll come to the init ref page. It's going to be a flap 30 landing, so 128. and a +5 knot wind correction. Localized frequencies are set for the de-ice. Again, we'll take the engine anti-ice if required down through this secondary cloud layer. For the landing altitude, once more 1,000 feet in Atlanta. Recall is checked for the rad out. As mentioned, the minima 1215, so we'll set that up. It's going to be a Barrow minima. That's going to take us a little bit of time here to select, but once more, the PMDG 737 quite nicely optimised, so you don't have to scroll for too long.
2321 around departure, ready contact.
Just up through 900 feet.
And now the approved as requested will enable direct highs and resume the departure.
Okay, says 12.
22 now departure, ready contact. Maintain 10,000, release the hoist speaker system.
1215 on the Barrow, 1215 on the charts, and we have 1215 on both sides. The auto brake will go through to auto brake 2. We've got a reasonable amount of landing distance available, but it's a little bit sharper coming off on Bravo 7, I think we said it was.
Contact Atlanta Center 119.37, good day.
So holding the checklist there for the time being, just coming down through flight level 300. We'll center up the heading bug once again.
2990, climb and maintain 14,000.
250 knots already on the speed, so we're good coming down through 10. We'll hold the passengers until we're down through flight level 200. But now then, just continuing in the descent, the jet already set up, and everything looking very nice here for our approach into Atlanta.
Plane 273 are announced to Ronnie, runway right clear takeoff.
Ronnie Delta 2673.
And Devil 4931, line of sight, runway right, line us away.
Perfect 8 right, line up and Endeavor 4931.
Okay, so we just come overhead waypoint Yaba, which brings us onto the Judge transition now for the ILS-08, just coming down through 8,000 feet, and speed back now at 240 knots. So far the VNAV doing an excellent job here. You can see we are going to meet the restriction at waypoint Navi above 8,000. In terms of the approach items then, altimeters, we now have a QNH of 3009 set on all 3 altimeters. We're taking the landing lights on, we've got the signs on here as well. We'll take the engine start switches through to continuous ignition. Localized frequencies once again are checked 109.3 on both sides, course 095 there on both sides. And just coming now in towards waypoint Larry. Now to bring us round onto the final approach course for the runway. In terms of the approach checks then, pressurization is set, recall is normal, auto brake 2. With the landing data again, VREF 128 plus 5 knots will be 133 for the V approach. The approach briefing is complete and down through 7,000 feet. Doesn't look as though we're picking up the ILS just yet. So holding 240 knots for the time being. Once more Larry brings us on to the arrival. Looks as though we've got no further speed constraints thereafter. We still need to be above 5,000 feet at waypoint Judge. As we approach Judge, we should pick up the ILS, so we'll transition over to flying that. Actually looks as though we've got the localizer coming in just now. Showing 20 miles now to the field, so we'll arm up the loc. And we have VOR loc there on the FMA. 20 miles still at the moment. Just coming onto the glider as well. We'll come into level change. And we'll start rolling off the speed. Go back towards 200 knots. And we might just take the speed breaker as well. Just help get that speed back a little bit more quickly and not put us high here on the glides. Once we've got the speed back, we'll come through to flaps 5. 6,000 feet, 5,000 above the aerodrome elevation, 80 miles to run, everything looking nice here at the moment. We'll go flaps 1. And we'll come now through to 180 knots. And we can arm up the glide slope here as well. We've got glide slope armed. That should capture momentarily. We've got MCP speed, glide slope, we'll get rid of the speed brake, we'll come through to flaps 5.
So 1946, connect departure on 133.47, have a good day.
So tracking down the ILS, I believe we use single channel unless we're planning an auto land. I've been told that previously, although the checklist I'm using here does actually state to engage the other autopilot once we're established. Let me know down in the comments if you know any better. So 6,000 feet, 5,000 above aerodrome elevation, 15 miles, spot on, for a 3-degree slope, 180 knots, nicely established here on the glide slope and the loc, and looks as though the aircraft's managing to hold the speed. So missed approach altitude we said was 3,500 feet, we'll set that up here on the MCP.
3347 now, Delta 1946. Good day.
In terms of the landing checks, the engine start switches once again are set through to continuous. We'll arm up the speed brake here ahead of time. Already had that armed, so speed brake is armed. Typically I don't know about the Boeing, but on the bus we'd do that with gear down. So just the landing gear and the flaps to come. We'll hold the gear here till we're through about 8 miles. And again looking to come back towards 133 knots here for the approach. About 12 miles now to run towards the field. And obviously visual here with Atlanta. And its multitude of runways. So once more for the vacation, auto brake 2, we'll use idle reverse, vacating off to the right at Bravo 7. Just picking up a little bit of speed, but looks like the jet's still got that in hand. Approaching 11 miles now. Overall the Boeing seems to do a better job at keeping the glide slope with a lower flap setting. And as well we'll just reset the heading bug back onto our current track.
So 2830, left on November, hold short, runway 9 left at Sierra.
Full short 9 left at Sierra, Delta 2830.
Just oscillating a little bit here as we come down the glides. Still nicely established though on the loc and the glide slope, 10 miles to run.
Screen air 036 heavy, or nav grid, runway 9 left at Mike 2, cleared for takeoff.
So we'll keep 180 knots till around 7 miles. Obviously in a moment we're going to have a lot more drag from the landing gear, and we'll go through to flaps 15 as well once we've taken the gear. Okay, 9 miles, we may as well take the gear a little bit early. So gear down, take the runway turn-offs and the taxi light on. Once again, igniters are set through to continuous. Speed brake is armed. There's 8 miles, 3 greens on the gear. And we'll come back now towards 160 knots. Again, the aircraft is just oscillating around a little bit here as we come down the glide. Overall at this point the PMDG 737 does feel like a very mature, really nice product. We saw that with the VNAV, but a little bit surprised to see the aircraft struggling here in fairly benign conditions. We've only got 6 knots straight down the runway currently. Anyway, flaps 15 selected and indicated with the green lights. We'll hold 160 knots now till around 5 miles.
672 heavy, turn right, hold short, runway 8 right at Delta.
8 at Delta, Delta 672 heavy.
There's 6. And we'll take the autopilot and the auto thrust out, particularly the auto thrust fairly early, give ourselves time to get everything nice established. I think we're going to be better off here as well flying the latter stages of the approach manually given the aircraft's behaviour here on the ILS. Okay, 5 miles, and we said again, the approach 133. There's 133 on the MCP. And just 2 more stages of flap here to come.
About 2830 at Sierra, cross runway 9 left, taxi to the ramp 5 and call the ramp tower, have a good day.
So there's flaps 30 selected.
Sierra straight over to ramp for 5, Delta 2830, I'm good.
And now indicated, speed rolling off. We'll leave the auto throttle in here till everything's stabilised.
Cross runway 8 right, John Foxtrot, contact ground point 9.
Cross 8 right, and then Foxtrot ground point 9 Delta 672 heavy.
So for the landing checks then, we have landing gear down, 3 green lights, flaps 30 with a green light. That is the landing checklist complete. I'm going to take the auto throttle out on the MCP. I'm constantly told in my videos that's incorrect. I know we're supposed to use the buttons down on the thrust levers. As checked, we are stable. But it's far easier to do it up here than be hunting around at the last minute trying to use the instinctive disconnect push buttons. Okay, good on the speed, good on the thrust. Down through 1,000 feet we are stable.
1366 at Delta, cross runway right 15 short, contact ground point 99.
Not visual yet with the Pappy.
And 682 heavy, hold short runway 9 left at November 13th.
Okay, can just about see the Pappy now off to the left of the runway. 2 whites, 2 reds, check 500s. Take out the autopilot.
Tower 2444 approaching Shell for the visual 8 left.
2444 line tower runway 8 left on 1806, clear to land.
Actually, the PMDG 737 feeling quite a bit nicer to hand fly than when I last flew the aircraft. It's been quite some time since I last flew the jet, and overall it feels a lot heavier now, a lot firmer on the controls. Really nice. Just approaching the MDA.
Minimums.
We'll continue. We'll see if that flight modelling translates into a nice landing. Few knots high on the speed.
Air France 682 heavy, traffic holding in position, cross runway 9 left. Taxi to ramp 9 and call ramp tower, have a good day.
Okay, back on the yoke, just checking back, off the thrust. It's going to be a little bit of a long landing. Let's touch down, we'll just go idle reverse. Looks like we've got Bravo 7 just coming up on the left. Did say that was going to be a fairly tight exit to make. No point jamming on the brakes, upsetting the passengers, so we'll just come onto the brakes, manual braking, and vacate off on the second right. Down through 70 knots. We can cancel the reverses. And right on Bravo 11 to vacate. So there you go, guys. I do hope you enjoyed that preview of the Boris Audio Works Soundpack, soon to be available for the PMDG 737 family. The add-on should retail for around $10 US. I don't know whether or not I'm able to give you the release date yet. As I understand it, the release isn't imminent, but equally it shouldn't be too long of a wait. As and when I'm able to do so, I'll pin a release date down in the comment section below. I'm sure that I'll receive a number of comments stating that this sort of sound set should be included with the product as standard. Overall, generally, I do agree with that statement, whilst of course it is hard for some of the smaller developers to make custom sound sets. Certainly the likes of PMDG have all of the available resources and or money available to make these sorts of sound sets. With that being said though, it certainly shouldn't detract from the absolutely excellent work that Boris has done here with the sound set. The product is once again a superb upgrade for the PMDG 737 family. It's also very reasonably priced. And again, Boris's work has been consistently excellent within the sim. I think it really is worthy of reward. So if you are somebody that gets a lot of use out of the 737 within MSFS, then certainly this add-on is well worthy of a look once it's released. Hopefully the video has given you a good demonstration of what the product has to offer. Once again though, do just bear in mind this is still a beta version of the product currently, there may be still some tweaks and improvements ahead of release. As I mentioned during the flight, the Soundpack really goes to add that extra level of immersion to the PMDG 737, and for me it just really rounds off what is otherwise a very solid, very enjoyable aircraft. So a very big thank you to Boris Audio Works for allowing me to preview the sound package to you here today. I really hope that all of you enjoyed the flight. As always, if you did, please consider giving the video a like. If you want to see more content from the channel, then please do consider subscribing as well. And once more, if you would like to help support the content further, you can do so by becoming a channel member or patron, and I'll leave links to both of those down in the video description below. As ever, a very big thank you to my channel members and patrons for all of your support. It is very much appreciated. And to all of you, I do hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Take really good care, and I will see you all again soon.